Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of, I guess we're calling this Let's Talk. We'll kind of see how this goes from here. But yeah, this is kind of the second one of this. Just wanted to give some time for comments to kind of pile up on the original video and just kind of go from there, I guess. This one isn't going to be too terribly big. This is just kind of reading the comments a little bit as well as kind of sharing any similar experiences regarding those. So I'm not going to be reading all of them because some of them, well, thankful for like, all I want for you is to feel all right. Those are all greatly appreciated, but they don't particularly add anything to what I'm saying. So if I skip your comment, it's not out of spite or anything. It's just I don't feel it's adding to what I'm trying to say at the particular moment. So that's understandable. One comment was going to be entering college soon. Starting tomorrow, I'll be meeting with the other students at a luncheon. And I've just been a bit stressed. Always had some issues with social skills with people I don't really know, so I tend to clam up. In fact, I've been so nervous I sort of clammed up this past week, even at home, because I'm so nervous. Um, yeah, I was very much the same way when I was going from high school to college. Ultimately, I wasn't good with people at all, and I was even worse in middle school. Kind of what I had to do when I got to college was just kind of force the issue. The good thing about college, depending a little bit on where you're going exactly, of course, but the good thing about college is that everyone's kind of fresh. Like you're not stuck with the same people you've had for the past basically 12 plus years from regular public school. So you're a bit more fresh. You don't have as much baggage besides, and I suppose you'll have a few from your high school going to the same college depending on where you're going again. I mean, the good thing is that you're much more fresh and people are far less judgmental about things than they were in high school. You will find that everyone in high school was a complete ass once you get to college, so people are just generally more friendly. You'll still have problems, of course, but generally people are just more friendly because they're realizing the situation a bit better. Um, so yeah, the best thing I could say is there's always plenty of clubs and there's much more variety in the clubs because it's just much bigger than, say, your public high school. So I mean, if you're into gaming or whatever, I mean, I found an anime club at Tech. That's where I met most of my friends that got involved with Momocon and stuff. That's kind of just my best advice is just kind of look for a club or two they'd be interested in on campus. They're far better about doing that sort of stuff than regular schools are. So there's just that as far as I know. But ultimately, yeah, I know that feel. It's just something that college is really good for besides the education point is that it kind of helps us non-talky people to kind of get out of our shells at least a little bit. Let's see. Next comment. I've been meaning to ask this question ever since I've been aware of your notable silence during commentaries these past couple of years. Been around since been around since 2010. Hurrah! Well, thanks for the continued watches. I feel to be too awkward to ask on Twitter with all the people around, so I'll be direct if you don't mind. What made you lead this spark of commentary with the other BSC members as well as adding to discussions you were directly asked upon? Your silence for each playthrough became a small end joke within the community, but I'm a bit concerned about it, unless it's too personal otherwise. Honestly, it's just kind of the depression talking. Ultimately, there was a. It was basically just kind of a result of unable to really find work. I'm sort of back on the track with that, but still waiting on a few things to come through. But it was just kind of lack of work, being just generally down. Unfortunately, depression as a thing really tends to sap any and all enjoyment out of things. I mean, you could tell in certain games that I'm just really into and I can really get joy out of it. It's just a matter of depression has a way of making sure that doesn't happen no matter what you're doing. Because I mean, I love doing brain scratch and I love everyone involved in brain scratch. It's just a matter of there's only so much you can do about it sometimes. The best thing you can really do, in a sense, is just trying to push past it. I mean, I'm aware of it. I guess because I mean we look through the waveforms when we're editing and we notice when there's long pauses for certain people. So it was something we were definitely aware of. It's just a matter of I don't want to try to say random stuff for the sake of just saying something. I guess. Next next comment, I guess. I fell into a spot of depression around the beginning of high school. Well done. Must be called middle school, that grade. everything was going wrong, and I felt there was no reason to be happy. I just made a fool of myself trying to make friends. Uh, Basically, it goes on to talk about some school issues and just not being able to be good with people. Again, I know the same way. Uh, hmm. School is just kind of a weird thing in the sense that, from a bit of hindsight, being 26 now, I really shouldn't have let it bother me so much. Because going into it, just at my stage in life, I can look back and say, wow, that really didn't matter much at all. Because, I mean, aside from like maybe one or two people who happened to go to tech with me at the same time when I graduated high school, I basically don't talk to any of them ever. So ultimately, trust me, there's no one in high school you're ever going to talk to again. Unless, like, you live in a really small town and everyone just knows each other, sort of thing. But generally, I guess the best thing I can do, obviously, grades are important, but they're not kind of the end all be all. But as far as social stuff goes, um, hmm, obviously don't do anything like outright stupid, but the thing you kind of have to realize coming from my perspective is that ultimately, again, it's not going to matter after high school. It's really not. And ultimately, it's only I know a few years seems like a long time, but I've been out of college the same amount of time I've been in high school, and these 4 years went by a lot faster than the ones in high school did. So ultimately, this is kind of your chance to kind of just do stuff without much repercussions, in a sense. So as far as meeting friends in school goes, it's just kind of just do it. Really, I mean, rejection's hard. It's just one of those. Even if you get rejections, or even if you do make friends, it's not likely to last in a sense. So there's kind of no reason to be super apprehensive about it. I guess that's just kind of my advice about it. Although, understandably, from someone in that position, I didn't want to hear it either. So, take with that advice what you will. It's just kind of what I'm offering. Next comment. I can honestly relate. I can imagine that this can be difficult for you. I only wish you well and say that you should do something that you like. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's just kind of what you kind of have to do. I mean, honestly, the best things I try to do when I'm trying to push past it is more or less just force myself to work on something. That's when I kind of try and get a lot of the BSC playthroughs done. It's because it's just one of those. I may not be enjoying the game as much as I possibly could, but ultimately, if I treat it a bit like a job, I can sort of force the issue, and that gets me kind of motivated to actually do things. So that's just kind of my way of doing things. Next comment. Well, I have a friend with depression. I want to know, first, how are you dealing with it? Everyone does it differently, so that's kind of a weird question. Ultimately, I am on some meds. That much is I can share. I'm not going to say which ones or anything like that because ultimately it's different for everyone. Uh, as far as dealing with it goes, I mean, it's something I've had pretty much my entire life, so it's not something I can really deal with in the sense of I'm outright conscious of it. It's just one of those things where I kind of have to realize I'm falling into certain patterns and I try to work around that. Uh, is it constant or do you fell into deep depression from time to time? It's a little bit of both, really. I mean, we do know to some extent it is a brain chemical imbalance situation, which is why there are meds for it in the first place. But I mean, it's kind of always there, but it does hit harder from time to time. It really does. Do you feel anger or something like it if ignored? Uh, I'm not really sure what you're asking there, unfortunately, so I can't really answer. Next question kind of doesn't have anything to do with the topic at hand, but I feel I'll answer it anyway. What's your general opinion of the state of Georgia? I ask because I seem to recall you saying you live there. I live in very rural parts of the state, so it'd probably be interesting to compare how you feel about it, since I think you said you live in Atlanta, which is much more cosmopolitan than anything I'm familiar with, versus how I do. Uh, I live outside of Atlanta by about half an hour, give or take what you're considering the city. I mean, ultimately, I'm originally from Chicago, and I've been there plenty of times, and I remember it. So Atlanta's small even by comparison to Chicago. So I'm far more city prone than I am to rural areas because I've been to the rural areas of Georgia, and oh my God, there is fucking nothing to do there. Ugh. I mean, I've driven to Birmingham, Alabama for a con a few times, and once you get out of the 285 perimeter around Atlanta going west to Birmingham, there is nothing for like 2 straight hours. It's like, what's the fucking point of all this stuff being here? So I guess it's kind of my opinion of it, but socially, it's still pretty bad. Because I mean, I won't go into specifics, but I mean, everyone kind of has their own issues down here. I mean, it happens in every major city, but it just feels much more kind of anger prone here than it is just kind of people being annoyed in a sense. So that's just kind of my general opinion. Uh, bu- 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 let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of going over the comments while I scroll up because there's quite a few of them. I figured you were going through things when you were really quiet. Your commentary is a lot more engaged than it used to be now. I've been watching BSC and following you guys since the first time I got a computer. I discovered BSC and I was looking for other people's thoughts on Sonic games. Go figure. I noticed your guys' commentary. Since then, I've been done a lot of growing and changing as a person and endured a lot of mental hardships as well. While there are a lot of people that understand mental illness, there are a lot more who deal with these things than you think, as you can see in your comment section. I know what I mean to say is that your group, as you made an offer to another route in life that I can take when I can't handle the current one. Uh, I mean, I certainly appreciate that we're able to help people in some way with it. That initially wasn't the intent in a sense, not to say that we're not happy to do so, but I mean, ultimately we kind of just started it because we thought it'd be fun. But I mean, we're happy to help people of its own in its own way because I mean, I guess it's kind of escapism in its own way, like games are in and of itself, but I guess a bit less time consuming in a sense. But I mean, hmm. Again, this is just the way I talk, so I'm not trying to put anyone down. It's just kind of sound kind of flat when I'm doing this. Uh, I mean, I certainly appreciate it. It's, just if we're able to help people, that's just kind of a bonus. Not our actual intent, but I mean, hey, we're happy to do it. Uh, bu- 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 Next comment. I have been taking antidepressants for several years, primarily for anxiety. Yes, I have depression and anxiety meds. There are strategies I employ in an attempt to avoid lowering my mood. The news stories in the media, gaming, or others try to balance my cynical negativity in my head, which people like to start to do with positive ideas. Doesn't mean becoming blind optimist, but alleviates my tendency to be so-called worst-case scenario. There are a lot of situations where this simply is not possible. The recent announcement of Metal Gear Survive is an example. I think kind of what you're getting at is just try to think positive. That's for kind of depression-prone people. That's a bit easier said than done. I mean, I unfortunately don't know who you are, so I don't know what kind of stage of life that you're in. Just, I don't know, just kind of being 26 in this economy is just kind of doom and gloom all over the place. So, I can understand trying to think positive, but ultimately you kind of have to face the reality of a situation, and unfortunately that can put you down. So I guess that's kind of my thing. I kind of disagree there. But I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinion. A lot of support comments, which is great. I'm glad to hear. Uh, uh, okay, here's a good one. Yeah, depression is a hell of a thing. I'm not diagnosed with it, but I recall a time in my life where something hit me really hard and I just couldn't get happier or motivated. Food wasn't enjoyable. I didn't want to do any of the things I enjoyed. I think it was due to forcing myself to pull all-nighters for ongoing art commissions. I remember binge watching the SCP playthrough of LA Noire in one go. To this day, it's one Let's Play I have a hard time going through. Yeah, because that's absurdly long and you're insane. Whatever the case, it was one of the worst periods of my life. And it was only for a short time, so I can't imagine what it's like having to live with it. Uh, yeah, that's kind of the weird thing that some people it's just periodic, while some people just kind of live with it. I'm one of the people who kind of has to just straight up live with it. Uh, but that's just kind of the thing people don't seem to understand a lot of the time is that people who don't really get it or maybe have like one depressive episode in their life don't understand what it's like to actually live with it. It's a very different thing than just getting really sad because shit happens. So I guess that's kind of the point I'm trying to make with this. So, I mean, nothing's wrong with, trying to understand it just from your own one depressive episode sort of thing. But I mean, it's just kind of its own matter compared to living with it. So it's not apples and oranges, but it's kind of like, I guess, strawberries and blueberries in the sense that they're both berries, but they're not quite the same thing. Uh, hmm. We have a very, very long one. I would read it, but it gets kind of very in depth, so to avoid any personal information sort of stuff going on, but uh, another one coming is about basically about a relationship with another person just romantically. Unfortunately, this is something I can't really give advice about because I've never really had that sort of relationship before. Uh, I mean, it's kind of its own separate deal entirely compared to general depression in a sense. I'm not sure whether you're someone who is living with it or if it was just something brought on by this event. So I can't do too much about that, but I mean, ultimately, if you want to talk about it a bit more, I can try and be a bit more in depth with a response later. So you know who you are if you ask that. Not so much asked, but talked about that. Uh, Another comment. I've been depressed for 10 years now. Had thoughts of just ending it many times. The only reason I'm still alive is I fear the pain what comes after death. I forget who said it, but there's kind of a good quote that I kind of go by in that it doesn't really end the pain, it just transfers it to someone else. That's kind of my look on it as far as things go. Uh, it's, I mean, fear the pain, what comes after this. Ultimately, I can't really speak on that because I don't really, uh, I mean, no one knows what happens after you die, so I can't really comment about that, but I mean, it works, I guess. um, and I guess the last one is kind of a joking one. Joking. I feel this is something to do with the Bears and Cubs. Bears, yes. Cubs, not so much because the Cubs are actually doing well this year. So let's see if they actually win for fucking once. But I mean, the Bears suck, and they've sucked pretty much my entire life. So bleh. Yeah, those are just some comments. They're just kind of getting started with this whole series. So I guess the thing is, if anyone has any topics they'd like to bring up about it, I mean, I'd be happy to talk about it or just kind of start a discussion on said topics. So, yeah, just have at it, and thanks for listening.